It's a little different right now due to the holidays, so that's why we're live right now with Jeremiah with Guild Mortgage. He'll go ahead and introduce himself here in a second. So, other than that, I'm your local realtor here in Reno and Sparks with J&G Real Estate. Jeremiah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Jeremiah. I'm a loan officer with Guild Mortgage, and I do all the financing. So when you talk to Alfyn, she'll send you somewhere, give you a recommendation, and we'll work on your numbers.
Yes. Yeah. So Jeremiah and I were talking, and like there's a pattern we definitely cannot unsee with first time home buyers right now because most people think they're not ready, right? But what we're actually seeing is that people are normally closer than they think, they just don't know yet.
It's true.
Right? So it definitely isn't about rates or headlines. It's about where you're actually seeing, what we're actually seeing behind the scenes with the whole first time home buyers.
Yeah, it's true. Like, the news, you have to think of you have to kind of step back and think of how the media makes money, right? So like the media makes money based on ratings and views and partnerships and all these things. So
Mhm.
when we think of good news, like, oh, you should go buy a home, like that's not gonna hit CNN because it might not be the sexiest piece of information, right? So, if you only watch the news and watch the media, then you probably are really confused, and I would imagine that it's really difficult to make a good decision. So, like what you're saying and what I'm saying too is just focus on where you're individually at. Like what money do you have in your bank account? What's your credit score? What do you want to do next year? What do you want to do in 2027? Where do you want to live? Like those are the questions that I would encourage people to start asking. And then once you decide what you want to do, if that hopefully includes buying a home, then we would begin the process and be like, this is all the things that you can do. And I will say, like 9 out of 10 times, most people can qualify. And there's not a whole lot that'll hold it up.
So speaking of that, what some buyers, what do they assume would disqualify them, but often really doesn't?
Yeah, right. So what a lot of people think is the biggest thing that I run into, especially with a lot of buyers this year, is this belief that you have to be on your job for a certain amount of time. So a lot of people, especially after COVID, had evolutions. They're like, oh, I don't really want to do this anymore, and I'm going to go into, pottery or something like that. Totally different. Maybe they were in dentistry before. If we have totally different fields, that can be a little bit strange. But if you're just moving jobs because you're making more money, you're getting promoted, you're elevating somehow, maybe you were in classes and now you're doing the thing you were learning, like whatever it is, all that stuff is allowed. And you can have multiple job changes, but it just depends on what the reasons are. If you're just lazy because you don't want to work and you keep getting fired, then you're probably not going to get approved. But if there's
Absolutely.
a reason, right? You're making more money, you're educating, you're elevating somehow, then that's usually fine. So that's a big thing that a lot of people believe is the job history.
I like that. That is so true. And I feel like that's where a lot of hesitancy comes is, oh, I just changed jobs. I don't think I can, get a home.
Yeah,
But they just it's the same type of job, just maybe a different position. I don't know. Like you said, it depends on the situation, right?
it
If it's
does.
a similar job. So question number two, what do you notice about buyers who get into homes faster versus the ones who, take their time and wait?
Yeah, I think what you have to kind of know what you are after. So a lot of people are too scared to take the plunge. And I just think we overanalyze, right? We're like, oh my gosh, I moved jobs, I only got $2, I don't know what's going on. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is just getting a literal free appointment about all of your information. So instead
Mhm.
of on our side, I know a lot of lenders work this way, but we prefer to gather your information, schedule a meeting, get your documents, look at all of the options that you'll have. And I will say sometimes those options aren't great. Maybe you don't like literally any of them and they all suck to you, but at least what's
Mhm.
going on, right? And then we can figure out, okay, well, if you were to do it today, this is what it would look like. But if you want it to be better, these are the things that we can do to get you there. So to answer, like, what is the biggest difference between expediency, like how fast people get things done, is just really up to how quickly and how fast you're willing to go through the initial process, right? Because what you will agree with me too is if you are in a lease and your landlord says your lease ends December 31st and you decide to get pre-approved December 15th, there's no way that you're going to be able to close on time, find a home, get approved, go through the appraisal, inspections, all this stuff. So the best thing you can do for yourself always is just prepare at least, I always say 4 to 6 months at a time.
Mhm. So anyone, leases coming up April, May, now's the time to get pre-approved so we can get ready for when that lease ends. And also another thing, like even if you're on a lease, there's still ways where we can get you a home due to a lot of the deals happening right now. So it just helped, one of the my previous buyers to do a rent buyout. So, that's still something and that we can look at and still an option if let's say you have a longer period as far as like your lease. But if you have time, you want to wait, you want to work on things, April, May is your deadline. Now's the time. Now's the time to get educated. Now's the time to see what you have, because then you'll have some wiggle room to do what you need to do. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, if you wait to the last minute, right, it's
Right.
going to be stressful for you, stressful for me, stressful for Alfyn. Like it's not going to be fun. So just prepare ahead of time.
Yeah,
And I know a lot of people are nervous to do that, but it's not scary.
that is so true. And I love that we bring this up because I've actually had a couple reach out and say, hey, I need to be in a home January or February. And I'm like, eek. Um,
You got to start shopping
so
today.
yeah, I'm like, OMG, okay. So definitely great question. Next one. What is the biggest mistake first time buyers make before even talking to a lender?
I would say the biggest mistake first time homebuyers make before talking to me or a lender in general is assuming you know more than you do. Because at the end of the day, like you might think that you got to do all these things for your bank statements and you can't move money here and you can't do this and you can't do that. And then it becomes problematic later on. So I always recommend just you are not the expert, right? Like I am not the expert in most things. But I know that I could do this. And so when I tell you, like, don't move your money around, if you've got cash, put it in here. If you've got money, put it in this way. If you've got 10,000 liabilities, these are how we're going to structure it. But a lot of people will think that, oh, I got to pay off my credit cards. I got to get my accounts right. I got to get my savings right. I got to do this, and that. And it's just not worth it because there's a lot of things that you might do that you don't need to do once we actually look at it. And so that's what I always recommend is like, don't do anything. Just let us look at it and then tell you exactly what you need to do. And
Mm-hmm.
most people are pretty surprised at the very little things that they need to do most of the time. But I do see that a lot. It's a big mistake is people hold themselves up because they think they need to do X, Y, Z, and then they prevent the process. And so I would just say,
Mm-hmm.
just go for it. A good example of this is we had a client that was referred to us from another lender that couldn't get their loan approved for whatever reason. So we look at it, but before we could even get the application going from this person, they had already kind of talked themselves out of it. And they're like, the other lender said, no, I don't want to do this again, da, 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 and they totally shut it down. When I do believe there could have been some options in there from what we talked
Mm-hmm.
about, right? So just don't shut down and listen to the experts kind of idea is my biggest piece of advice.
I love it. And then, as far as my side is concerned as well, what I've noticed on the agent side is that buyers think the process starts with house hunting. I see it a lot, especially first time home buyers. They are pinpoint to a home, they're already shopping, they're looking at Zillow. But, really the first step is getting with a loan officer. So that way we can see what you qualify for, see the bigger picture, and then from there, I can assist and we can go house hunting once we get that pre approval.
Yeah, no, it's true. A lot of people start at the home. They're like, "Oh, I found this home on 123 Main and it's gorgeous." And then you look at their information and they don't qualify, right? So like just make sure you get that step done before because you can't buy a home. You can only buy a home two ways, right? Overall. Cash. So unless you've got three, four, $500,000 in cash, you're not gonna do that. Or you get a loan, right? So like you have to make sure that this piece is figured out before you can get into the home, right?
Yes. And I know people get emotionally attached right away and stuff like that. So to just limit that and, definitely me and Jeremiah will be able to walk you through the first steps. And that's by talking to him first, getting your information situated, and then we can go look. So buyers who win definitely start with clarity. So we'll help you with clarity by taking that first and right step.
That was beautiful. Buyers who win start with clarity. That's great. I mean, because
I
it's
love
true.
right? So, okay, I want to definitely bring up January 9th. It's going to be a live webinar. Definitely, here we go. We talk about clarity. We want to give more clarity as far as like how it's going to look like, how the process looks like in the lender side, and then how he, you know, turns it over to me, and then I take it on. However, the loan officer side doesn't end there. We're a team. We walk you through the process all the way out, all throughout. So we'll be able to kind of map that out for you, see how that looks. That way you feel more confident to take the next step.
Yeah. Well, I just want everyone to know, like, it's not a big deal, right? Like, at the end of the day, if you get pre approved or you don't, or whatever the plan is, it's not a big deal. So just reach out to me or your preferred lenders that you like and get a plan together, regardless if it's next month or in 6 months or whatever it is, so that you have all that information. And that's it. I mean, that's all it is, right? Like, knowledge is power.
Yes, I agree. And I feel like, I can totally agree and understand. I was there. I felt like, oh, what
Sure.
if I asked a dumb question? Like I'm gonna feel stupid. And that's totally normal. So that's why we're here. The webinar is gonna be great for first time buyers, the not yet buyers, people who are scared to ask that dumb question. Nothing's dumb, right? We just need clarity. And then renters wondering if buying is even possible. If that's you, this webinar is for you as well. So if you've ever thought, I just want to understand my options, then come join our live seminar and webinar, and we'll be able to answer that to you. It's a fun, filled, packed, valuable 1 hour.
Yeah. Alfin's going to do Cirque du Soleil. It's going to be great.
Right? No screenshots, okay?
Yeah, can't wait.
All right. Other than
Anyways,
that, Jeremiah, do you have any final thoughts?
no, and I just want everyone to know that, like, just ask your questions and just get pre-approved and see how it is. And then if you're really still nervous, then just join us on the 9th and we can go through it then.
Absolutely. So you'll definitely understand where you stand financially. You'll know what your next move should be. And even if buying is months away, we'll be able to help you.
Yes, sir. All right, my friend. Well, have a great day, and I'll talk to you.